Dame Kiri Te Kanawa is one of the greatest international opera stars, celebrated throughout the world. She became known to millions after singing at the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer, and has spent over 40 years entrancing her audiences with the beauty of her voice.
Where my talent for singing came from is a mystery, but my mother always believed it came from my Maori heritage in New Zealand. Voices come from extraordinary places and sometimes out of the blue. They don't follow a pattern. In this film, I'll be taking you on a journey with some of the great soprano voices of the past right through to the present day. And along the way, I'll show you something of the sheer hard work that we go through to make a great soprano. Well, this is the Metropolitan Opera, New York, one of the greatest opera houses in the world, showcased for the greatest opera singers in the world as well. It's a wonderful place to sing in, and I made my operatic debut here in 1974. And to sing in the greatest opera houses of the world is the pinnacle of our career, of every opera singer. For me, the Countess Almaviva in Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro was a significant moment in my early career. There is a great range of roles for the soprano voice. And in many different types of sopranos who sing them. But you must appreciate that to become a great soprano takes years of training, and you never stop learning. The Metropolitan Opera in New York invite me to work with the talented young singers there, and I find it very rewarding. Always breathe out. You have to breathe out in order to breathe in. Sometimes it gets, you forget to breathe out.
It's true.
So when it's getting too much, you have to go, okay, now take the breath. Layla Clare is a young soprano from Canada. I'm working with her here as part of the Lindemann Young Artist Program. She's been through intense competition to just get here. Normally I get them when they have had at least 5 to 8 years of training, and so they know quite a lot. I try very hard in the beginning to simplify it. I keep saying the breath is like bellows, you take a breath. And then you go, sing. Trying to use the breath is the big thing. Yes. When you breathe, press that tongue down at the back. My own musical journey started in New Zealand, where my parents adopted me as a baby and soon noticed my talent for singing. I sang on the radio and won competitions. This is me singing as a child. But to follow a career in music, I would need specialist tuition. My mother, a very, very strong character in my life and a very strong disciplinarian. She moved my family from Gisborne, my little hometown where I was born, to Auckland and to here, St Mary's College, where I met the wonderful Dame Sister Mary Leo, she became eventually, who taught me my first notes and the start to the process of becoming a singer. Sister Mary Leo was the best voice teacher in New Zealand, and she's become something of a legend for her tough but effective training methods.
You keep on talking about my girls. You're sort of more than just a teacher to them, aren't you?
Yes, well, I try to help them every way I can. The girl has to sing well, and she's got to be happy. And I am strict, but I don't think they're frightened of me. The real spiritual quality of a voice does not appear unless there is peace and happiness in the soul.
She died in 1989, but I think all of us who knew her still feel her influence today.
you know, she'll live on in her pupils, because not only did she teach them to sing, but she also taught them something of herself.
But she taught them the fear of God too, which is in two good aspects, to fear God, but she always made us fear God as well. She put the fear of God into us, which was also a good thing.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing to be a good singer. You can do so much, not alone for yourself, but also for the community itself.
I treasure this photograph of me with Sister Mary Leo, taken just after I'd won a singing competition in Melbourne when I was just 21. Still as I remember it.
We walked across here many times.
During my early years, like most New Zealanders, we had little opportunity to see live opera, and most of the music I heard on the radio was nothing like that. New Zealand was very isolated from classical music. So when the great German soprano Elisabeth Schwarzkopf came to New Zealand in 1963, it was a really extraordinary experience for me. She brought great colour and meaning to every word she sang, and her voice influenced not only me, but many of today's great sopranos.
It was so intelligent, the use of text, the phrasing, the coloring every phrase. If I didn't have her word coloring and her kind of oral acting, as it were, I probably never would have found that. I would have thought it was just okay to sing beautifully.
Later in her career, Elisabeth Schwarzkopf became famous for her masterclasses.
Does it have to go so loud?
You can see here just the qualities I remember. She knew exactly what she wanted. She was a hard taskmaster and rather terrifying.
I'm sure you have another color. For the moment you're giving me one color, which is lovely. Now has to come another color. There is no, and you have it. If you only would think in the way of another color, feel it differently. Wandle, smiling, all right. Wandle, wandle deine Bahnen, nur betrachten deinen Schein. Nur in Demut, it's not wandle, wandle deine Bahnen, ja, it's not that at all. No? Warm, warm, warm.
Wonderful though it was to meet Elisabeth Schwarzkopf, we New Zealanders were particularly proud of a soprano who lived much closer to our shores, the great Australian Joan Sutherland. Joan Sutherland is a coloratura soprano, and the extreme agility of her voice is shown at its best in the role for which she became famous, Lucia in Donizetti's opera Lucia de Lammermoor. Donizetti's music suits Sutherland's voice extremely well. This is the famous mad scene at the end of the opera.
When I was little, I wanted to be a diva, and I had a metallic soprano, which I still don't like. Ultimately, of course, where the voice comes from is not here or here, but here. And so what you really have to have is a big head and a big jaw and a sounding box in here, which is why Joan Sutherland has the instrument that she has, which would do anything she wanted. She's an amazing, amazing. She is really the assoluta. There isn't anybody better than Joan.
With an incredible voice like this, the press dubbed Joan Sutherland La Stupenda.
Gained sensational stardom, and indeed your celebrated nickname, La Stupenda. Now, what did that do to you? Surely that must have knocked you endways, mustn't it?
Well, it was very flattering. It still is, actually. I was never quite sure which way they meant it, you know, whether it was either the sound or the size of me.
Come on.
Joan Sutherland showed me that it was possible for someone from my part of the world to make it in Europe as a singer. So I left New Zealand in 1966. I went to study in London, at the London Opera Centre, and at age 27, 28, I was at Covent Garden doing a major, major role, the Countess in The Marriage of Figaro, which is totally and utterly unique. And I think they took amazing chance with me, and I think I hopefully lived up to their expectations. The first aria the Countess sings in the opera is Porgi Amor, which is especially testing for a soprano. The music is slow, but that doesn't make it easy. If anything, that makes it harder, because the voice must be held absolutely even throughout long, slow phrases.
One of my golden opera memories is when I was a teenager. I queued for standing room for the first night of a new production of The Marriage of Figaro at Covent Garden, and there was this soprano I'd hardly heard of called Kirite Kanowa as the Countess, and nobody really knew what they were going to get, and my God, she was wonderful. And at the end of her Act 3 aria, Dove Sono, I remember she has to leave the stage, and the stage was completely empty, and the applause went on and on and on, must have been for 2 or 3 minutes, and we knew a star had been born.
My voice has been associated with the music of Mozart since my early days at Covent Garden, so I was thrilled to be invited to the Juilliard School of Music and Drama in New York to see something very special.
This is the manuscript of the last scene of The Marriage of Figaro. It's the manuscript just of the wind parts.
Yes,
yes.
Well, that's Figaro, isn't it?
Figaro,
Calling
yes.
everybody.
Yes. It's so wonderful to look at Mozart's hand.
I mean, it's a great privilege, isn't it, to be able to handle this sort of
Well,
beautiful
it's a great
pieces.
privilege to show it to you,
Well,
who defined the role of the Countess.
But, you know, I sort of, you know, how lucky we are to even have these pieces.
Absolutely. There it all is.
And then we all have been singing it for the past 100 years, whatever it is. Just like that.
Just like that. And this is how Mozart depicted it.
Yes.
Yeah. Very special.
Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, Le Nozze di Figaro, is written in Italian, just one of the numerous languages a soprano needs to be able to sing in.
It's an unstressed vowel preceding the stress that it should.
Today, language coach Bob Cowart is helping Layla with her Italian pronunciation. Now just tell her about the open O's, because we're going to go into this.
The Italian version of open O is absolutely magical.
Yes.
And the word is not ricordo with these muscles pulling down, but ricardo.
Ricardo.
Yeah.
So let's do Porgi Amor. Are we ready? The main challenge of Porgi Amor is to simplify the technique. I would ask the singer to just breathe and sing. There, I know that's where you'd say it right there. Tesoro, it's tesoro, not Zorro.
Right,
Yes,
right.
and
I
it's
want to pull down on that. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
it's just smile, say tesoro, and it's the moment you just do that lovely wide smile, and just let everything just drop. I think you might achieve it.
Yes.
It's just do that phrase before, and then you'll sound authentic. Now smile. Do you like that? Yes, that's more like it. And suddenly, and there's nothing much to do.
Yeah.
You made it
much
actually
easier.
simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more beautiful.
Okay.
The next one.
Oh.
Yes, and whenever in doubt, just smile.
Oh.
Yes.
That's 1,000 times easier. 1,000 times.
Yes. Well,
All those
and it
O's
looks,
are pulling me down.
yeah. Young singers at the very start of their careers need to check that their voices are in the best possible shape. We call the voice our instrument. It just happens to be inside us. So I visited my New York voice consultant, Dr. Slavitt, to find out more about how it works.
Strobe machine.
Our brave volunteer is Joanne Foote, who, like me, is from New Zealand.
Just hold this here so we'll pick up the vibration of the vocal cords. Just want you to open your mouth and stick your tongue out.
Just relax.
Good. Say A. Good. Say E. Hold it longer. E.
The strobe light slows the image down, allowing us to see the movement of the vocal cords. They're actually vibrating hundreds of times faster than this.
Good. Then raise the pitch.
Dr. Slavitt is looking for any evidence that the vocal cords are being subjected to undue stress or inflammation.
As the cords lengthen and thin and are stretched to, similar to a guitar string getting thinner and trying to stretch it to go higher, does it get too tight where the surface no longer can vibrate?
Yes.
do you get too tense where all of a sudden there's no flexibility? The cords are actually opening and closing and colliding, and that's a lot of trauma or contact between these mucosal surfaces, and if the technique and effort is not proper, that can be a lot of injury and strain to the tissue, causing swelling. Singing as a professional is the same as an athlete in a professional sport.
So this is when I've encouraged all young singers to visit the doctor. To see a really, really excellent ear, nose and throat doctor is part of what we do. In the depths of the Metropolitan Opera, there's a wonderful archive where you can find out about the great singers of the past, such as the famous Italian soprano, Luisa Tetrazzini. She created a minor scandal in 1926 when she married a man 30 years her junior. She was known as the Queen of Song, renowned for the flexibility of her voice and an incredible mastery of runs and trills. She was in her heyday in the 1920s.
A lovely portrait of her.
I love looking at all the memorabilia. Sometimes photos are all you have, but I think it's important for any singer to be aware of the wonderful legacy they inherit. This is the only piece of film there is of Tetrazzini actually singing. At this point, she had already retired, but you can see that she's still absolutely lost in the music. And interestingly, she's singing along to a recording of the great tenor Caruso. The age of the gramophone had arrived, revolutionizing the way that the human voice was heard. and one of the greatest sopranos of the time was ready to make the most of it. This is a portrait of Dame Nellie Melba. She was Australia's first greatest diva. She changed her name from Mitchell to Melba in honour of her hometown Melbourne. And of course now we have Melba toast and we have Peish Melba. Here she is in London in the 1920s, helping to make an all-Australian Christmas cake as a gift for the Duke and Duchess of York. But of course the really important thing about her was her voice. Its incredible clarity is well preserved on these old recordings. She became an international star, and as the Met Archive demonstrates, it seems that she was also an astute businesswoman.
So this is the paybook for Nellie Melba, 1900-1901. Per performance, $1,850.
It's a lot of money. I mean, I can't imagine the singer's earning that amount in this house now. Is there any tax in there?
Yes.
Agents' fees?
I'm sure.
State tax, federal tax, unions
Yes.
tax? So she'd come out with what? $1,000?
Maybe.
That's amazing.
Whatever would keep her
But
happy
what is
and
it- what is
signing on for the roster the next season.
But she's not only doing Romeo and Juliet. Is that her again?
Yes.
She's doing Faust. She does on the 12th, Monday the 12th of November, she does Romeo and Juliet. Then she does on the 15th of November, she does Faust. Then Bohème, Traviata, Bohème, Lucia, Bohème, Romeo, Faust, Romeo. And I say all the singers are overworked here, and I'm saying, oh, maybe we should shut up. Don't you think?
They were working very hard. This was, you know, a real company. They had a small roster of singers, and they were just doing numerous things every week.
She travelled in diva style. If you look at the paperwork and her contract, it was 2 port-to-port first-class cabins plus 2 second-class cabins. And so she established the word, I think, diva and all the behaviour that went with it. The words, I am Melba, would explain just about everything about her. But there's one name in particular which comes to mind when we think of the great sopranos of the past. Famous both on and off the stage, Maria Callas. Here she is, casting her spell as that fiery temptress, Carmen. She revolutionized opera and the art of opera and acting. I suppose the role that I found the most telling and the most poignant was her Traviata. And it was normally the recording I listened to way, way, way back was the one that was a live recording. It was amazingly committed. Callas brilliantly captures the tragedy of her character, the young girl Violetta, as she gradually dies.
As the opera goes on, the coloring of the voice should have been a little more tired. The critics said that Callas in Traviata appeared to us tired.
In the last act?
Generally.
Generally, yes.
Yes, and especially in the last act. This was a compliment for me because I struggled so hard to find this particular quiet, rather little tired quality that I wanted, and took a long time to have it. And it's dangerous, dangerous
Yes.
work also, because it's like on a little thread that can break from one minute to the other, the sound you want. When one wants to find a gesture, when you want to find how to act on stage, all you have to do is listen to the music. The composer has already seen to that.
If you take the trouble to really listen, you will find every gesture there.
This production of Tosca in 1964 is considered to be one of the greatest operatic moments of the 20th century. It's rather poignant that the character Tosca is herself an opera singer. In her moving aria, Visi d'arte, she sings, "I lived for art, I lived for love." You feel as if Callas is singing straight from her own heart. Callas worked on Tosca with the director Franco Zeffirelli, and their partnership was legendary.
It was like a first time, not of Maria Callas, of that opera. In the rehearsals of Tosca, Maria sometimes rehearsed practically without singing. She was holding on to her own vision. In fact, in her aria, she does a kind of very careful and merciless analysis of her art position.
I was aware of Callas, I remember, as a child, on the radio, only on the radio though, and I was aware of the way that made me feel when she sang. It hit me physically, the sound. It wasn't always pleasant to listen to, but it was always extraordinary to experience.
She had this reputation of being terrifically difficult. I think she was very, very demanding, there's no doubt about that, but I think she was also a supreme professional, and a lot of people who worked with her thought she was absolutely wonderful.
At the beginning of her career, Callas was not the sylph-like creature she later became. She moulded herself into an elegant, slender figure who also became a fashion icon and modern diva.
There is a difference in the quality of the voice before she lost the weight. It was a prettier voice, but it was a lesser voice. This was something absolutely riveting, and it's all to do with that self-discipline, that she wanted to play the parts in a way that required her to be agile and to be at least superficially attractive.
Maybe people expect sopranos now to be a little bit diva, which means whom we immediately imagine, Callas, right? Together with her incredible talent and voice, she was a very glamorous lady. She was wearing incredible clothes, and she knew how to wear that. I think the whole look of her, it's diva, in a good way.
The Russian soprano Anna Netrebko is one of our new generation of singers. Here she is charming the audience at last night of the proms, not only with her wonderful voice, but with her magnetic stage personality too.
look. I'm just a woman and I love fashion. I love beautiful, expensive clothes. Sometimes not too expensive, but it has to be beautiful. It has to suit me. But it's got nothing to do with my profession. But I'm absolutely sure what on the stage, performer has to look good. It has to be something very intriguing and interesting in the look.
Mozart's Queen of the Night certainly has a recognizable look, and the young German soprano Diana Demerol has made it her own. It's one of the most exciting of all soprano roles, powerful, dangerous, and demonic.
Is a woman, she is a mother, she is a politician, she fights for her rights, and she has demonic powers. And you can hear this in the second aria, the Hölle Rache. It is where she really uses these black powers, and it's a state of energy. Everybody knows how it has to be sung, and the expectations are very high. And you have to be absolutely fit, because it is in extreme range, and when you're not 100% fit and healthy in that moment, you might also hurt your voice. So it's also a dangerous role to sing.
The Queen of the Night aria used to be my audition piece when I was auditioning for the review and things like that. And I used to just go in and rattle it off in some key or another, but I was up there somewhere. And I used to do it to frighten children. I used to put a torch under my face and then sing the Queen of the Night, because it is very threatening music. People tend to think of it as mellifluous and sparkling and wonderful and light-hearted. It's killer music. She is Mrs. Scissorhands. She is all broken glass. It's an amazing, wonderful, fun, mad thing to sing.
The epitome of the supernatural vocal powers expected of the soprano is found in the operas of Richard Wagner. And there's one famous dramatic soprano whose name was associated with this music more than any other. Here she is in a performance staged for American television, and rather surprisingly, introduced by Bob Hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Kirsten Flagstaff, star of the Metropolitan Opera Company. Madam Flagstaff has been acclaimed the world's greatest living soprano. She will sing an aria from Richard Wagner's opera, The Valkyrie, Brunhilde's battle cry.
Flagstad's voice is a marvel, powerful and brilliant. With her winged helmet and spear, Flagstad is the complete Wagnerian soprano. I was fascinated to discover that her Valkyrie costume is still kept in the Met's archive.
Helmet that she wore.
But, I mean, she doesn't look all that big, because I look bigger than her. This is her costume.
Right. Yeah, I think the height.
Flagstad was a statuesque Norwegian, and I've always felt that there's a link between her powerful physique and the sheer size of her voice. Beautiful too, that's a stunning picture of her. Sometimes an outsized personality and the figure to match is just what the public wants. This soprano voice unexpectedly reached an entirely new audience in 1988. The great Spanish soprano Montserrat Caballé teamed up with Freddie Mercury in the hit single Barcelona.
Many people, of young people, come today to the opera. They always say, we wanted so much to find out who is the woman that screams so much with Freddie.
Today, we live in a visual age, but in the end, it's the sound of the voice which is important. And there is a working weight for every singer.
If you're overweight, it's going to make life more difficult moving about the stage. It's going to be harder on your knees. It might give you a sensation of lower support, as it does, in fact, if you're pregnant. But being underweight is also not ideal because it robs you of your strength.
Get ready. Here. A key point I try to get across to all students is the need for proper support for the whole voice. You need to be strong, fit, and in good shape. Words. Always remember that if you've got plenty of air here, you're not going to do any damage here.
We have to have a tremendous amount of strength, physical strength and stamina to travel the world, to sing in a piece that's 3 hours long. It can be sometimes tremendously emotionally draining to sing a role that's about loss, it's about, in fact, most of opera is about something tragic, particularly if you're the heroine.
Like Callas, Renée Fleming has taken on the vocal and dramatic challenges of portraying Verdi's dying heroine, Violetta, in La Traviata.
They want to see the heroine die, and the heroine's got to die like a swan in melody, and she's meant to suffer for quite a long time. But we've always said that the sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. They've still got to have that vulnerable quality, and sometimes, you know, fantastically vulnerable quality. You could argue, you know, is opera the successor to Roman circuses? Do we go there to see people suffer and die? And I rather suspect that we do. We like a good cry, and we like someone whose voice will elicit the cry.
famous opera like this can be seen in lots of different productions around the world. Any great soprano needs to be able to cope with radically different sets, costumes, and stage directions. Here's Anna Netrebko in a celebrated new production of La Traviata, which presents a very modern view of the heroine and her world. It's a bit of a physical workout too.
In our time, like everything else, opera has to change. And this classical, old-fashioned way of singing, like we say, standing and singing like bark and bark, right? I don't think it's really works anymore, because the audience needs something more. They need a kind of show. Even not a show, but they need a performance.
Fortunately, as a soprano in an opera, you're part of a team, and often the most crucial person will be your stage partner, most often a tenor. Here, the young Mexican Rolando Villazon. During the rehearsal period, the singers learn to play off each other, working together to create the key relationships required in the opera.
Yeah, good. Anna has this very natural way of being on stage, and I think we both enjoy very much what we do. We are very playful in rehearsals, and we play a lot, and we have fun. But I think we both played with the seriousness of a child, the way children play their games.
One of my favorite partnerships was playing the role of Desdemona opposite Placido Domingo in Verdi's great opera Otello.
I have been lucky with the Desdemona, very lucky, and in this occasion is Dame Kiri Dikanowa, which is really a wonderful Desdemona. She really has the vocal qualities of the character, because the floating in the voice, so that the pianissimi, then she sings, then she has the temperament and the sweetness of the character.
In this opera, you have to experience the whole of Desdemona's relationship with Otello, from profound love through terror and physical abuse, which leads to her being killed by her own husband. In the last act of Otello, there's the wonderful Willow song. You have to find a still center in yourself, sustaining beauty of sound, as well as conveying profound emotion. The intensity of working in the great opera houses on masterpieces like Otello is immensely rewarding, but also daunting, and it's wonderful to have the opportunity to perform in quite different circumstances. In 1981, I was thrilled to be invited by His Royal Highness Prince Charles to sing at his wedding to Lady Diana Spencer. It was broadcast to a global television audience of an estimated 750 million people.
Which will hear the Bach Choir of which Prince Charles is president. Musicians from the orchestras, the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, the English Chamber Orchestra, the Philharmonia Orchestra, with Miss Kiri Tikanawa, soprano, John Wallace, solo trumpet, and John Scott, organ continuo. In the last aria and chorus from Samson by Handel, Let the Bright Seraphim in Burning Row.
The music that was chosen was Handel's Let the Bright Seraphim for a wonderful, joyful occasion. That's a very big one. Nerves are a major, major factor. And of course, the bigger the role, the more the nerves. Sometimes the lesser the role, too, more nerves. But the whole thing is really to be very sure of what you're doing, know your music very, very, very well, be very, very well prepared, and before you go on, breathe very deeply 20 times.
The nation fell in love with her as a result of that. But in America, you know, Leontine Price sang for Kennedy, and Jesse Norman sang at all the great Clinton events, and Renee Fleming, you know, has done everything from the World Trade Center memorials to Obama's inauguration.
I've had several opportunities to kind of be, in a way, a musical ambassador for my country, or to be even a statesman of sorts. I get so many letters from people saying, your voice brought my family or me through a trial, through a difficult time, and brought comfort. So we have this other role that's beyond entertainment that is quite wonderful.
35 years before, another great soprano voice had taken center stage at the opening of the new Metropolitan Opera House at Lincoln Center in 1966.
Leontine Price, one of the great sopranos of this century, is working to perfect her opening night role as Cleopatra.
Leontine Price's voice is very special. I remember hearing her sing here in New York. Along with her beautiful voice, she had a strong and confident stage presence. The amazing costume that she wore for the role of Cleopatra is kept in the Met's archive. glorious
magnificent
piece.
piece for Antony and Cleopatra.
And is it everyone want to do? They want to put it on, right? And
I think
most
it'd
often
be
you can't.
wonderful to see if you
and
can
so,
try that
so I
on.
take the liberty of being able to put it on. Isn't it stunning?
That looks terrific.
Actually, what
Matches
Leontine
your
wore.
shirt. These were all designed by Franco Zeffirelli.
Oh, gosh.
To sing is the most human of the art form delivery, more than perhaps an instrument which has to be tuned mechanically. You are the tuner, you are the vessel. Everything depends on how you feel as a person. It is for you to hear how beautiful your instrument is, from you to you with much, much love. That way you can send it out to the public because they make the careers. Once they accept you and your freedom to be and your love of singing, they never leave you. There is no love like that.
For Leontine Price, the night was a spectacular triumph before an audience clearly thrilled by her singing.
Okay, Dave.
I mean, I love Leontine Price very much. I think she was one of the great, well, of course, one of the great sopranos of this country and of the world. But she was one of the people that we followed, like Joan Sutherland. We young singers were following these great singers, and lots of people are now following me, and people are following like Renee Fleming and these lovely singers, and we're just like the Pied Piper leading our little singers to the mountaintop. Sure.
You want to rest one day, don't you?
Yes,
And
yes.
then fly back to London.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to fly back to London and rest. I prefer being in my own bed.
As a professional soprano, your life is planned many years in advance, and good scheduling and careful choice of repertoire is a big part of a long and rewarding career.
At the top table, there's only ever a certain number of seats. It's limited. It isn't just talent. It isn't just the beauty of the voice. It's so many different things. It's personality, it's perseverance.
Yes.
The outside image is a very glamorous life. In reality, it's quite tough because it can be a very lonely life.
Yes, it's glamorous. Yes, it's exciting. You're jetting here, there and everywhere. But when my children came along, I knew I couldn't do it anymore. I just missed them so horribly.
Sometimes your loved ones can't come with you, and it's hard to keep up relationships and friendships. But these people who stay with you, then these are the ones, and there are some.
Pressure is hard because you have to work a lot. People are always expecting from you much more than you can give, always. So at least I try to be honest with myself and give everything what I have.
If you don't take yourself too seriously, you know that the job is what you do is sing, you sing up on stage. I think the most important thing is to live a very normal, hopefully good life that hasn't got a lot of people around telling you that you're absolutely wonderful when actually you're not. You know how you are, you know how you sing. It gets a little bit heady sometimes, the fame.
But you do get these extraordinary opportunities when you have the chance to touch huge numbers of people in a very special way. For me, what really makes a great soprano is a passion for singing which endures for a lifetime. In the end of it all, you do have those wonderful performances with fabulous colleagues and making great music, and I think that's what it's all about. It's all about the joy of being able to sing and perform at the highest possible level, and I must say that it is for the sheer love of music that I say to you, if you want to be an opera singer and you have these opportunities, then you have to go for it.
Over on BBC One now, Harrison Ford stars in the action thriller Firewall. To South Africa here on BBC Two, catch up with the football. World Cup Match of the Day is next. And more opera on Thursday night. Gareth Malone Goes to Glyndebourne continues, episode 2 at 9, and a quick clip is coming up next. Can teenagers learn to love opera?
There's a lot to make work in a really short time. They've got to remember everything and watch the conductor. It's incredibly complicated. Anyone confused? It's really amazing seeing these kids mature right in front of me.